Teaching Tax Flow podcast, where the goal is to empower and educate you to legally and ethically minimize taxes paid over your lifetime.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Teaching Tax Flow, the podcast. As always, episode 30 today. We're going to talk music and money. Joined by two of the five guys from the five-piece band hailing from Nashville, Tennessee. If you didn't read the show notes, you'll find out who they are shortly. However, a little brief intro on these guys. You'll hear a little bit more as well. These guys actually have graced some large-scale festival event stages such as Lollapalooza, Coachella, Bonnaroo, many others. Also, definitely no strangers to national TV appearances, such as those on Late Show with David Letterman, Late Night with Seth Meyers, Conan, Stephen Colbert, as well as Jimmy Kimmel Live. And one last number I'd like to throw at you, just a little number I guess, really, maybe. It's 155 million plus downloads on Spotify with one of their songs alone, Too High. So before you meet these guys, let's take a quick moment to thank our sponsor.
This podcast is brought to you by Legacy Lock. If you are new to estate planning or simply need to review your current plan, Legacy Lock makes it as easy as pie. Legacy Lock is a unique platform that enables you to easily complete your attorney-drafted documents conveniently from the comfort of your home or office. Your first step to this peace of mind is simply visiting teachingtaxflow.com/legacy.
Welcome everybody back to the podcast. We actually have a really good guest on with us today that probably you don't expect, which obviously if you've listened to the podcast before, you know that me, John Trapolsky, my partner in crime, Chris Picuro, we're always up to something. And now we can bring in stuff that's non-tax related, and it's a little treat for you. So before we get into that exactly, let's introduce these guys. We'll say who they are, and then maybe say a little bit about what they do. What do you think, Chris? Should we tell them what they do?
I think we should, and I'm really excited to have these guests. And I promised John before this podcast I would keep my pickleball talk down to 5 minutes or less.
We'll see what had happened.
Right.
It's not going to happen. We already know that, but I'll give you kudos for trying. So Tommy Putnam, Trevor Terndrup. Name sound familiar to anybody? Maybe, maybe not. If not, I'm sure you can Google it and find out for yourself. So we're talking to two members of Moon Taxi. So not taxi drivers on the moon. Literally, you guys do something completely different. Gentlemen, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
Awesome.
Hey, John. Hey, Chris. I wish we were in Florida, but we're in rainy Nashville right now.
Hey, like I tell everybody, though, I'm from Michigan, so careful what you say about the weather, guys. I think I left, it was in the teens. I'll get back. It's probably still in the teens, let's be honest. But I just get accustomed to icicles. So without us giving the intro, I mean, you guys have more talent in this space than we do, so clearly I can't sing a number and make it sound good. What do you guys do, man? Do you guys wash dishes? Do you, polish cars? What do you guys do?
We are not officially astronauts. We are officially 2/5 of the progressive pop rock band Moon Taxi out of Nashville, Tennessee. And we're excited to be on. This is actually our first tax-related podcast. So, you're going to have to forgive any sort of, beginners, sort of faux pas on our part. But we'll just try to keep it simple and kind of explain what we do, and then we can get into, the tax stuff and maybe even some pickleball stuff later on.
Yeah, pickleball.
We've never had anybody else besides Chris bring up that topic, so of course.
Oh yeah.
What the pickleball? I've learned two new terms for pickleball recently. The second one's escaping me, but geriatric tennis is the one that comes to mind right now.
That's all right. Hey,
Ouch.
you know what?
Ouch.
And honestly, it's super fun to play. Yeah.
Give us a little bit of background on how you guys met.
Yeah, absolutely. I met Tommy when I was 15 years old in gym class, and he was wearing a cool t-shirt of a band that I liked, and I said, hey man, I like that shirt. And like literally 18 years later, we've been playing music ever since. So it started like that in high school. We had a high school band, then we moved to Nashville in the early 2000s to attend Belmont and pursue music. And what was back then, Music City was like a different landscape. It was so crazy back then, just in the sense that there was not much going on other than country music. There wasn't much of a rock scene. But even when we first moved to town, we were studying, so we weren't kind of actively out there playing, touring. We were just writing songs in our dorm and what they call shedding, which is just practicing a lot and, getting the music inside your fingers and starting to write music together. We met the rest of the guys in the band over the next 5 years. We had like a little bit of a lineup switch with our drummer. But the full formation of the band was around 2007, which is when we started putting albums out, live albums, studio albums. And 6 albums later, we're about to put out our 6th album. And like I said, 18 years later, we're still playing music together. And I mean, there's a lot that's happened in that interim. We got to play, on national television. We did Letterman, we did Conan. We got to play at major music festivals. And, at this point, it's like, it's cool. It's a lot of people think like it's some sort of magic that we do, but for us, it's just, it's a job. We like to go out and play music for people. And, it's a lot of fun. Like the magic for me is like the numbers, like what you guys do, that doesn't make sense to me. That like is a little bit of a, like you're going to really have to explain that to me. But, music for us is just something that always came naturally. And we're just so lucky that we have the same group of guys that's been playing together for, a really long time. So that's a brief summation of the band.
Well, like retention of team members is a huge factor in success. And we talk about on our podcast a lot with people from all different industries, just how people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And the fact that you love what you're doing really supersedes how talented and how good you are, but the talent and the popularity and the success comes from the fact that you guys have been together. There's so much synergy and you guys love what you do. So, and Tommy, are you guys from Birmingham, Alabama? You two are from
Trevor moved down from Syracuse to Birmingham to Stable Hills, Alabama. And I was in another band, but like I knew when I picked up a bass guitar when I was 12 years old what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And speaking on what you just said about, loving what you do, like, I just thought about this the other day. We had a great show in Columbia. Was that Saturday, Trevor? I guess it was Saturday.
Yeah.
And
South Carolina.
Yeah, I always get mixed up with Friday or Saturday. And we just played great, and the set was good. The crowd was really into it. And I was just thinking, man, we've really got it made here. It's a really fun living.
Well, that is cool. That's one of the things I was wondering about. Tommy, you answered the question is when you're 12 years old, you knew that you wanted to be a professional musician.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor obviously went to Belmont to study music, but was there an aha moment for you when you said, "Oh my gosh, this I can do this as a very successful and enjoyable and enriching career. This is doable."
There's like just a bunch of little aha moments throughout our career. Like, when we started to write songs that didn't suck. And when we, like when we started to write songs that people were actually like, yeah, this is catchy. As opposed to like, we didn't know what we were doing at first. Go ahead, Tommy. We were saying,
yeah, well, and when they sing it back to you, when they're singing along with you, that's
right.
We got a little something brewing here.
That's an aha moment. Like when you start getting the business side figured out, that's an aha moment. Like if a manager is willing to take time to represent you, you're like, okay, I must be doing something that makes sense and that merits that representation. So we got we were always known as a live band because we just played live all the time. So we got a manager first, and then we got a booking agent after that. But before then, we were just booking ourselves. And Tommy would call up these venues and say, "Hey, I know you guys got a stage. Why don't you have Moontax come play your venue?" And we were very DIY at first. Go ahead.
Yeah, the first show that we booked up. So I've got my old 2007, I guess organizer here with
day planner. Yeah,
day planner. Yeah, and I would book the shows, and like I would always have so much anxiety that I accidentally double booked us somewhere, and I never did. But I'd always think like, are we supposed to be in Louisville or like or was that? and I'd have it all written down, like, did I accidentally, and I'd check my emails, like, just to make sure. And it only happened a few times where I'd freak out a lot about it. But the first show that we booked was in out of town, was in Auburn, Alabama. And I remember
was that
exactly
year,
where
Tommy?
that was
07?
It'd be before then. It'd be probably 2006.
Okay.
I think I was a senior in college.
And you booked it. So like, tell them the business side of that. What does that mean? Did we even have a contract?
Well, no. It was all just handshake deal. It was like, and his deal was like $300 versus 80% of the door and 2 hotel rooms. And I did not know what any of that meant. And so I just wrote it down. I'm like, $300 guarantee. What does that mean? And then I kind of figured it out. I was like, wait, he's gonna just give us $300 to come down there and play.
Mm-hmm.
But the first time I booked it, I called them. It's called Coyotes in Auburn. It's not there anymore. And I called, and they said, we've never heard of you before. No, we're not going to book you. I'm like, okay, fine. Well, we had a lot of friends that were at Auburn because of our Alabama connection. And so I called one of my good friends, Matt. I said, Matt, I really need you to do me a favor. He's like, what's that? I said, go into Coyotes and talk to all the bartenders about how good Moon Taxi is. And he took a bunch of buddies in there, and they all talked up Moon Taxi the whole time. And I called the next day, and like, oh yeah, we've heard of you. Yeah, we'll give you $300 versus 80% of the door and 2 hotel rooms. Like, deal.
Wow, that's a band wingman.
It's pretty
Yeah.
sweet. Tommy, you're making the marketing heart sing by saying, like, I'm going to build word of mouth myself. I'm not going to.
Well, it's just, I mean, it's like what I just heard this story the other day about the Red Bull creator who he created it. And he just put a bunch of Red Bull cans at some bar in Tokyo, empty ones, to make it look like people were drinking the hell out of it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff blows my mind.
You really have to kind of represent yourself and put yourself out there until you get to the point where you have a manager to do that and like a team behind you. So we didn't have anybody, so we were just doing everything ourselves, self-promotion. And back then, like, we were printing off MapQuest directions to get down to Auburn, Alabama. It was hilarious. We didn't have iPhones.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're like, but crap, the map's not zoomed in far enough. We don't know where they are, but we know there's a line here. Like, let's go left. Figure out.
If you got off track with those MapQuest directions, you were in so much trouble. I mean,
so you go to print it, and it's split between 2 pages, and you're kind of
horrible.
Top one, the bottom one.
Well,
a lot.
Exactly. Other than you're pulling over to a gas station in Alabama, looking at their boiled peanuts and assessing the
Not to deviate there. So this is kind of funny. So you guys had an aha moment, and I think, Tommy, you had mentioned, when people start singing your songs back to you. Chris, I kind of know what your aha. I mean, we know you were born with an abacus, likely.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
But have you ever sat down with a client and they're like, singing a 1040 form back to you?
No, I will say the aha moment. It's not as sexy and it's not as cool as theirs. But there's been times when we'll do a live presentation for a group of entrepreneurs or mainly real estate investors, and content that we created from scratch, like on a slide, is up on the screen, and I see like 30 people put their phone up and just start taking pictures of the stuff we created sitting around our kitchen. Or like, I think people, and it hit me because we're always part of teaching tax flow, and what we're trying to do, we're trying to empower the unserved and underserved taxpayers out there. And that doesn't mean underserved like low income. This means people that don't understand about tax planning and strategy. But we also are trying to get from them what they need. So we think we know what they want. And something that struck a chord with you guys is like, when you wrote songs that didn't suck, were there, not to say a song, but were the instances where you wrote something, you're like, this is wicked, this is going to be great, and no one liked it? Or were there situations when you wrote something and you're like, and then people loved it?
Yeah, you never know because, both have happened. But like, sometimes you get too close to something and, you're precious about it. And then sometimes you'll, like you said, write something that you think is a throwaway song, and it ends up being the biggest song you've ever written. So it's really hard to tell. And we also have like multiple songwriters within the group. So something that I write, of course, I'm going to think is great. So that's a whole nother side of working within the, in the dynamics of a band with several songwriters in there.
We talk a lot on the podcast about building your own personal board of directors, and you guys spoke about building that, having a manager, having a booking agent. what are some of the other really important relationships for you guys out there that you feel are your advocates and you kind of wake up and say, I couldn't live without this person?
Those two are definitely the most important. You talk to them the most, especially a manager. And then, booking agent a lot too. And I talk to the booking agents more just because, I did a lot of that on my own to begin with. I was just flipping through this organizer back here and I was like, wow, I booked a lot of stuff back then, and like, I kind of know, and like, it's good to do that because I know, like, if we have 2 days off, like, where are they going to be? Like we just did something where we're going to end up having 2 days off in Charleston if we want to. You can go home if you want, or you can stay in Charleston, South Carolina. So that's a good spot. It's not, Starkville, Mississippi,
right?
Like, or some lame place like that. Not to say that Starkville's that lame. I actually have an affinity for that small town. But the other people, I guess, would be,
I would say your publisher, music publishers,
publisher is important. Yeah.
Hugely important. But for us, like, we're more on like the live performance side of it. There are, innumerable songwriters in Nashville where that is their main thing. They go in 9 to 5, write songs all day long. They're not talking to a booking agent. They're talking to maybe a manager and their publisher because they're trying to get their music, pitched for other artists to cut, or they're trying to get their music placed in television or film. And that's another thing that we do. And we've had success. Like, we've had our song in a McDonald's commercial. We've had our song in BMW, like some really awesome ads have used Moon Taxi's music. But that's another side of the, of our musical realm that we need, that's essential. So I'd say, manager, booking agent, publisher,
business manager, and your lawyer.
Business manager too, which is what ultimately I think we're gonna fall. And this conversation is gonna go that way because our business manager is the one that does our taxes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's important. Obviously important.
It fills out, files new companies for you for whatever you need. Like, we have 4 or 5 different companies that we have now, I think, and some of those are just they're just ways to receive revenue streams from different records depending on who it's with. It's just a way to organize everything.
Right. So in that era that we were talking about, the 2007, that's when we created our first record label, which was for all intents and purposes, it was just like a bank account that we could all see where the money is. That $300 guarantee that we got from Auburn, Alabama, that would go into this pot, right?
This LLC. Yeah, that's it. 12 South Records LLC, which is still, it's actually on the AAA chart right now, which is great. And I learned all of this stuff kind of on the fly. It's like, okay, you file for an LLC at the Snodgrass building. Okay, now what? Well, the first thing, I looked at this right here. These are the visitor logs, right, for when we started it. Me and Spencer went down there. And I saw that there's Tuesday the 6th. So it looks like I went down there. No, I'm sorry, Wednesday the 7th and Thursday the 8th. So Spencer and I went down there Wednesday the 7th, figured out how to do it.
Spencer's another band member.
Yeah,
by the way.
And then I must have gone back on the 8th and just gave it to him with $300 cash or something.
Okay, but you got to give him a little context. So this is in that era, right? 2006,
2007. Yeah.
Okay, and the Snodgrass building, do you guys know where that is? What that is?
In Tennessee, downtown Nashville.
Yeah. It's a Tennessee State building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that's where trick or something. It's where you form your LLCs and file your articles of organization.
Yeah, and that's what we did, and filed all that, and then brought it back into them.
But we didn't know what we were doing. I mean, we were 23 years old, and we just thought that you had to make it official somehow. So we were like, okay, we'll just start our own LLC.
Yeah, I did write a business plan, which our manager calls a manifesto. But I mean, and it's been a living document to some degree, but we've checked off pretty much all the goals on there, which is great.
This really gives us a lot of more credence to why we created Teaching Tax Flow, because hey, we have our most popular podcast. I'm sure it's going to be this one, but up until this one has been our one on LLC formations. And why? What are some of the basic reasons why you would do that? And again, when you just start your business, you don't have the resources, either maybe the financial resources or the personal relationship resources to build that board of directors out, and you're navigating through that. And I think that a lot of the listeners that are just getting started here will probably actually find a lot of inspiration behind your story, because when we think about where the band is now compared to where you were when you began, the journey, a lot of people don't realize the journey.
And so, I mean, that's right. It's like now looking back, you probably have that time when Chris loves it when I say this, and other people, but you really identify what your highest and best use of your time is, right? Mm-hmm. You start to bring in those individuals, as we mentioned, the board of directors or your personal board of directors, and you really look at it and say, wow, I have a little bit of free time. Even though I might have liked doing this over here a little bit, it consumed way too much time, or I didn't like doing this at all, and this person does it way better. And that's, like, you don't want to be filing your taxes. I never had to really do my own stuff because I've known this guy for 2.5 decades. So I'm skewed in that direction. So
we started off having to wear all the hats, right? And then one by one, you start handing the hats to other people. And then, you start to get more free time, like you're saying. That's very true.
Then we just started focusing on writing better songs, because then, in essence, that's what our job should have been from the get-go, is just write good songs.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I feel like with teaching tax law, what we're doing is creating the content, trying to take what's in our 20 plus years of experience on tax planning and strategy and give it out to more people that don't have access to that. What other things, like, do you have any other entrepreneurial ventures, no something specific or non-related things that you like doing? I mean, do other businesses that interest you? Do you
for me, there's a nonprofit called Notes for Notes that I've been really close to. The guy that started that, they build out music studios and boys and girls clubs across the country. And so I've been trying to figure out a way that I can use any kind of influence that I have to help my friend Phil, who does that, to get more of them. Because I think that's just such a good, philanthropy, and he's a genuine person, and I just really believe in it. But it's cool.
Well, we'll definitely put that in the show notes, no pun intended on that one. What kind of advice would you give? Because we get a lot of people. We talk a lot about Uber drivers on this podcast, just because that's your prototypical gig economist. But what advice would you give an aspiring, not just musician, but a gig economist, someone that's moving into something that they kind of have a passion for?
Because we always hear that term, right? Starving artists. But there's a lot of people that want to be artists, so they know what they're getting into, some of them. So kind of, Chris, if you're asking it right, is like, what little push or sense of reality may you be able to get?
I'd say, first of all, you got to take the dive, right? Mm-hmm. That's the biggest part, is that, I run into a lot of people who are just a little scared to take the dive. They're like, there's other people in this space, that I'm trying to work in, and they're kind of fearful of that. And it's like, but once you just dive off into the sea, like, it can really work. You can swim. And then, sorry, I got distracted.
Yeah, sorry. This is, hold on.
Hey, don't worry. Yeah, very kid friendly here.
Sure, I know how it is. I have a 2-year-old daughter who's,
oh yeah. And that's how old she is.
With a lot of things, like, you might have to fake it till you make it. Like that's kind of what we did with that first Auburn show, is that, like, we knew that we'd have friends show up, but they didn't believe us. So, we kind of had to BS them a little bit, mm-hmm, to get them to let us take that dive. And then we showed up, and there's like 75 people there. Our friends told all their friends, and then like, oh wow, this is worth it. And then we came back, and there's like 120 people there, just that sort of thing. And it goes farther than that. Like we noticed that we were starting to sell more tickets outside of Nashville than we were inside Nashville. And I guess your only conduit for getting to your fans was MySpace at the time. So what we started doing was taking a lot of pictures of our crowds outside of Nashville and posting them. And then people in Nashville were kind of like, now wait a minute, this band's touring a little bit, and then our shows in Nashville started getting bigger.
And Tommy, it's funny you mentioned that. So you did mention Columbia, South Carolina. So I lived there for about a year and a half before I moved to Charleston for about 10 years. And there was, I don't know if you guys ever knew of it or played at Headliners that was in Columbia.
Yes.
I used to, it was the greatest little spot that I went there, and I'd meet a lot of these bands that would be coming through. And obviously coming from the Detroit area, we're spoiled. Everybody, seemed to always come through here. And a lot of people stopped at Headliners, and it would almost be like they got one track on Sirius or XM at the time, and they went on tour, and they would stop there, right, between like Charlotte and Atlanta. And some guys had like a really sour taste in their mouth about like actually having to tour and stop. But then other ones would say the same thing. They're like, we go and, we play in Charlotte, and then we stop in Columbia. We got a night off, and there's 20 people. I mean, I'm sure
that's just part of it, though. That's just part of the, it's not always going to be great shows. But back to the kind of advice thing, I would just recommend, if you're starting a business, surround yourself with people that you trust, because we're just so lucky. And like, but Tommy and I, we're brothers at this point, it's just the business part is just a bonus, like I just want to be around this guy and playing music with him. But I feel that way about the guys in the band and about the network of management and booking agents too. It's just we trust each other, and I think that's hugely important, because it is an endeavor that can, it can sail or it can fail. And fortunately we've been very, very lucky, because we've seen other bands that are way better than us just ascend, and then just something happens and they don't stay together. So it's staying together is hugely important.
Teamwork's important, and these are a lot of nuggets for our listeners and wherever they're at in their journey. Well, we have one final segment. It's called the Rapid Fire. Our off-the-wall questions that we come up with. So okay. I've got 3 of them. So each of you would love to have your answer. And are you ready?
Yeah, Tommy, you go first.
I think my headphones might be dying. So
all right,
we'll go real rapid.
I'll go first.
Favorite cereal?
Fruity Pebbles.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Ooh, another Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Okay. Favorite sports team?
Oh man, you're gonna make me choose. Atlanta Braves.
Okay.
Titans.
I know, baby.
We're about them.
That's one of my 3. I can't pick, but anyway, this isn't about my last one. Ideal weekend.
4th of July on a Monday.
Ooh. Oh, nice. That's deep. That's deep.
Really?
Mine's with my family, spending time with my family and playing a little pickleball and winning.
Well, Trevor, we know you win almost all the pickleball matches.
No, that's not true.
Especially if you have a bald partner.
Nah, well, that is true.
Chris is more aerodynamic. That's what we're going to call him. So.
This is awesome, guys. Thank you.
Thank you guys for joining us. Again, if you're one of the only people on the planet that haven't heard of Moon Taxi, get on and check them out. Thank you guys, honestly, for hopping on this. As you mentioned too, Trevor, I think you did at the beginning, it's a topic that you guys haven't talked about a whole lot, even just related to tax and business side. And I mean, I know we can go deeper into that avenue too. So, we look forward to future conversations with you guys. Chris, anything else you want to add?
No, again, heartfelt thank you. I know our listeners are going to really enjoy this, and we will see you in the Defeating Taxes private Facebook group, defeatingtaxes.com, and in the Teaching Tax Flow community.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Chris, as always. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us, and we will see everybody next week. Hey, everyone. John here again from the Teaching Tax Flow team. Thank you for hanging out with us on this podcast. As mentioned earlier on, we like doing these, kind of getting some interesting guests on, great stories on how they got started. Couldn't think of better guests such as Trevor and Tommy from Moon Taxi to walk us through kind of their early stage process and really how they got to where they are now. Again, that number on Spotify of downloads on one song over 155 million times is no small feat. So congratulations to you guys on the continued success. We look forward to the new album you had mentioned there. Thank you so much for taking the time out of y'all's schedule to walk us through all the stuff that you guys have been through. For all of our listeners, if you have any questions for these guys, any questions for the Teaching Tax Flow team, as always, that Defeating Taxes private Facebook group is the best place to do that. If you're not on Facebook or you just want to shoot us an email, hello@teachingtaxflow.com is the best place for that. If you have any guest ideas, topic ideas you love to hear us discuss on this show, be sure to send them on over. But until then, we shall see everybody soon.